If you've ever walked through a nursery or flipped through seed catalogs, you've probably seen plants that look absolutely irresistible. They might have exotic leaves, stunning flowers, or even the promise of fast growth. But here's the hard truth. Not every plant is your friend. Some will take over your yard, some will poison your soil, some can even make you sick, and others might quietly destroy your garden from below. That's why today's video is one of the most important ones you'll watch. These are plants that even seasoned gardeners regret putting in the ground. Some are invasive nightmares, others are toxic dangers, and a few are both. And make sure to stay with me until the very end, because the last plants on this list are ones that catch gardeners off guard the most. Alright, let's jump right into it. 1. Bamboo, the beautiful but invasive monster. At first glance, bamboo looks like a dream. It's tall, elegant, and fast-growing. People imagine a lush privacy screen, a natural windbreak, or a touch of the tropics in their backyard. And in the beginning, it delivers exactly that. But then the nightmare begins. Bamboo spreads underground through rhizomes, and these roots don't respect fences, property lines, or even concrete barriers. Within just a few years, what started as a little corner of bamboo can become a forest spreading through your lawn, flower beds, and even into your neighbor's yard. There are countless stories of people who planted bamboo for privacy, only to spend years and thousands of dollars trying to dig it out, pour concrete barriers, or even hire contractors to remove it. The scariest part is how persistent it is. Chop it down and it springs back from the roots. Burn it, and shoots reappear. Even a tiny piece of root left behind is enough to regrow an entire stand. That's why many gardeners say bamboo is harder to eliminate than weeds. Now, to be fair, there are clumping varieties of bamboo that are more manageable. But the running types, they'll own your yard. If you love the look, grow bamboo in large containers where the roots can't escape. But in the ground, avoid it at all costs unless you want to spend the rest of your gardening life fighting a green invasion. 2. Mint, the aromatic invader. Mint is one of the sneakiest culprits on this list. It smells heavenly, tastes amazing in tea, and looks harmless when you first buy that little pot at the nursery. But plant mint directly in your garden soil and you'll quickly learn the truth. Mint does not play nice with others. Like bamboo, mint spreads through runners that creep underground. Before you know it, mint has popped up 3 feet away, then 5 feet away, until your herb bed, your flower bed, and even the cracks in your walkway are filled with mint. It chokes out slower growing herbs like thyme, oregano, or sage, leaving you with a garden that smells like a mojito factory and nothing else. Experienced gardeners know the golden rule of mint: container only. Growing it in a pot keeps it contained, and you can still enjoy fresh leaves whenever you want. Some clever gardeners even sink a container into the ground, pot and all, so it looks planted but stays contained, but planting it directly into your soil. That's a beginner's mistake you'll regret for years. 3. English ivy, the climber that destroys. There's no denying the charm of English ivy. Covering a wall or fence, it creates that romantic old world look, like a secret garden. But what you don't see at first is the destruction happening underneath. English ivy grows quickly, climbing up trees, houses, and anything it can cling to. Its tiny rootlets dig into surfaces which can damage brick, wood, or siding over time. It's not unusual for ivy to pull down entire fences or cause thousands of dollars in home repairs. On trees, it's even worse. Ivy wraps around the trunk, climbs into the canopy, and blocks sunlight from reaching the leaves. Slowly, the tree weakens and can eventually die, all while ivy keeps spreading. On the ground, ivy forms a dense carpet that smothers grass, flowers, and native plants. It outcompetes almost everything else, leaving behind a monoculture that's tough to reverse. In fact, English ivy is considered an invasive species in many parts of the world, and homeowners associations often forbid it because of the damage it causes. So while it might look beautiful in pictures, the reality is a nightmare. If you want vines, choose safer options like clematis or honeysuckle. English ivy is one plant you'll wish you never let into your yard. 4. Wisteria, the gorgeous but ruthless vine. When wisteria blooms, it's breathtaking. Those long cascades of purple flowers dripping from an arbor or pergola look like something from a fairy tale. But here's the truth that most new gardeners don't realize. Wisteria is ruthless. The vines are incredibly strong and will wrap tightly around anything in their path. Wooden posts, fences, even trees. Over time, they strangle and kill whatever they climb. The sheer weight of a mature wisteria can pull down fences or collapse pergolas if they are not reinforced. And its roots. They spread aggressively underground, making it nearly impossible to remove once it's established. Seasoned gardeners who do grow wisteria spend hours pruning and maintaining it every year. Miss one season and the plant goes wild. For beginner gardeners or anyone looking for a low-maintenance backyard, wisteria is a disaster waiting to happen. If you crave those purple blooms, look for less invasive alternatives or grow wisteria in a controlled, containerized setting. But planting it freely in your yard, that's a decision you'll regret. 5. Black walnut trees, the silent garden killers. A black walnut tree looks majestic, provides shade, and even produces nuts. But hidden beneath its beauty is one of the most destructive forces in gardening, juglone. Juglone is a natural chemical released by the roots, leaves, and husks of black walnut trees. It's toxic to many common garden plants, including tomatoes, peppers, potatoes, azaleas, and hydrangeas. Gardeners often scratch their heads, wondering why their vegetables keep dying when planted near a walnut tree, not realizing the soil itself has been poisoned. And here's the kicker. Even if you cut down the tree, the roots continue to release juglone for years until they fully decay. That means entire areas of your yard can remain barren for seasons to come. If you inherit a property with a black walnut, your best bet is to plant juglone-resistant species nearby, like corn or beans, and save your sensitive crops for raised beds far away. But if you're considering planting one on purpose, don't. It's a silent killer that will limit your gardening options for decades. 6. Poison ivy, the obvious one you don't want. Most of us know the saying, leaves of three, let it be. And yet many gardeners don't realize poison ivy is creeping into their property until it's too late. Poison ivy looks deceptively harmless, but its oil, urushiol, is incredibly potent. Touching the leaves, stems, or roots can cause painful rashes, blisters, and itching that can last for weeks. What's worse, the oil can stick to gloves, clothes, tools, or even your pet's fur, spreading the rash without you even realizing. And here's a nightmare scenario. If poison ivy is accidentally burned, the smoke can carry urushiol into your lungs, causing life-threatening reactions. For that reason alone, this plant is one you never want near your garden. If you see it growing, use extreme caution and protective gear to remove it. Many gardeners simply call professionals because it's that dangerous. This isn't just a nuisance plant, it's a genuine health hazard. 7. Morning Glory, the tangled trouble. Morning glories are undeniably attractive. Their trumpet-shaped flowers open in the morning with vibrant shades of purple, blue, pink, or white, and they quickly climb fences, trellises, and walls, transforming dull spaces into colorful vertical gardens. Many beginner gardeners fall in love with them because they grow fast, flower prolifically, and require little care. But the reality is far more complicated, and seasoned gardeners know that morning glories can cause years of frustration once they escape control. One of the biggest problems with morning glories is their aggressive self-seeding habit. A single plant can produce hundreds of seeds, and those seeds are extremely resilient. They drop into the soil and remain viable for years, and sometimes up to a decade. This means that even if you pull out or kill the parent plant, you'll likely be dealing with new seedlings sprouting year after year. The vines themselves are also difficult to control. They twine tightly around whatever they climb, sometimes strangling shrubs, vegetables, or young trees. In vegetable gardens, morning glories can quickly overwhelm tomatoes, beans, and corn, reducing air circulation and sunlight, which leads to weaker harvests and greater disease risk. In some regions, especially in warm climates, morning glories are classified as invasive weeds. They spread beyond gardens into natural areas, displacing native species and forming dense mats of tangled vines that smother everything underneath. Once established in open fields, they can be almost impossible to eradicate. 8. Castor bean, the deadly beauty. The castor bean plant is one of those garden paradoxes. Stunning in appearance, yet extremely dangerous in practice. At first glance, it's a showstopper. The plant can grow up to 10 feet tall in a single season, with enormous star-shaped leaves that can spread more than a foot across. Depending on the variety, the foliage can shimmer in shades of deep green, bronze, or striking burgundy red, giving any garden a dramatic, almost tropical look. It's the kind of plant that makes people stop and say, "Wow, what is that?" Which is exactly why many gardeners are tempted to add it. The danger of castor bean lies in its seeds, the glossy, mottled beans that look almost decorative. They contain a protein called ricin, one of the most lethal natural toxins known to science. Just a handful of seeds can be fatal if ingested by humans, and it takes even fewer to poison pets or livestock. Ricin works by shutting down cells' ability to make proteins, essentially causing organ failure. What makes it worse is that there's no antidote. Ingesting even small amounts leads to severe nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain, seizures, and, in the worst cases, death. Even though the beans look beautiful, they're deadly. For families with children, dogs, or cats, this plant poses an unacceptable risk. The notoriety of castor beans goes beyond the garden. Ricin has been studied and even weaponized in history. Infamously, it was used in political assassinations, such as the famous umbrella murder of the Cold War era. That dark reputation only highlights why this plant should never be casually introduced into a home garden. At the same time, castor beans aren't entirely villains. The seeds, when carefully processed to remove ricin, produce castor oil, a product that has been used for centuries. Castor oil is a common ingredient in medicine, cosmetics, and industry, but the extraction process is highly controlled for safety, and it's definitely not something a home gardener should attempt. 9. Giant hogweed, the plant that burns. At first glance, giant hogweed is a showstopper. It looks like something out of prehistoric times, towering up to 12 to 14 feet tall, with massive umbrella-shaped flower clusters that can measure more than 2 feet across, and leaves that spread nearly 5 feet wide. Its sheer size and exotic presence make it stand out dramatically in any landscape. Many gardeners unfamiliar with it are drawn in, thinking it's an impressive ornamental plant to showcase. But don't be fooled. This plant is more dangerous than it appears, and it has earned a reputation as one of the most hazardous invasive species in the gardening world. What makes giant hogweed notorious isn't just its invasive growth, but its toxic sap. The plant contains compounds called furanocoumarins. When this sap touches your skin and is then exposed to sunlight, it triggers a reaction known as phytophotodermatitis. The results are horrifying. Severe skin burns that blister and swell. Long-lasting scars and dark pigmentation that can remain for months, even years. In extreme cases, contact near the eyes can cause temporary or permanent blindness. What's even more dangerous is that the sap isn't always obvious. Brushing against the plant on a sunny day while wearing shorts or short sleeves might seem harmless, until painful burns appear hours later. Gardeners who unknowingly attempt to cut it down without protective clothing often end up in the hospital. Some gardeners may think they can handle giant hogweed with regular weeding, but the plant is relentless. Its deep taproot makes it hard to pull up completely, and any leftover root fragments can regrow. Cutting it back only encourages it to spread further. Even professionals need protective gear: heavy gloves, long sleeves, eye protection, and sometimes even face shields, just to safely remove it. The risks don't stop with personal health. Local governments often fine property owners for allowing giant hogweed to grow because of its invasive nature and threat to public safety. It's not just a bad idea to plant it. In many regions, it's outright illegal. 10. Tree of Heaven, the invasive imposter. With a name like Tree of Heaven, you'd expect beauty, shade, and tranquility. In reality, this tree is a nightmare. It grows rapidly, sends up suckers everywhere, and produces thousands of seeds each year. Its roots are aggressive enough to damage sidewalks, septic systems, and building foundations. Like black walnut, it also produces chemicals that suppress other plants around it, leaving bare, lifeless patches of soil. And the worst part, even if you cut it down, the stump sends up dozens of new shoots, creating a thicket that's even harder to remove. Many gardeners and homeowners spend years fighting against this tree once it gets established. Despite its heavenly name, this plant is pure trouble. So there you have it. 10 plants you should never grow in your garden. Some look beautiful, some smell amazing, and others seem harmless at first glance. But experienced gardeners know the truth. These plants come with consequences that can cost you time, money, and sometimes even your health. Remember, gardening should be a joy, not a battle. Choosing the right plants sets you up for success and saves you endless frustration down the line. If this video helped you, give it a thumbs up, share it with your fellow gardeners, and don't forget to subscribe for more tips, tricks, and secrets to help you create the garden of your dreams. And tell me in the comments, have you ever planted one of these troublemakers? What was your experience like?